Look at this beautiful bridge. Imagine how this project started. Now think about on Monday, these cement layers show up and they start laying the cement. And on Tuesday, the steel people show up and don't know what to do because the cement has already been laid. The architect comes on Wednesday and all the engineers gather on Thursday, and everyone panics because there can't possibly be a bridge done that way. Sounds ridiculous, right? But often in medicine, that's how we approach a complex problem. I'm not here to talk to you about bridges today, but rather a subject that's near and dear to my heart, poop. Who has read this book? Now, who here has explored its deeper meaning? Well, I am passionate about solving the problems related to this subject in children because sometimes this happens. You probably never imagined the amount of problems associated with this natural thing that happens to all of us in children. Most of my patients' families, when a child is born without an opening for stool, have never heard that that was something that could go wrong, but that's what we take care of. And let me explain that. This is a fetus, a 20-week fetus in a pregnant mother. This is an MRI, which demonstrates a complex colorectal and urogenital problem. That is the bladder. That's the urinary system. That is the gynecologic system, and this is the colon system. And in this baby, with a cloacal malformation, all of these structures come together as one opening. Clearly, not only not compatible with life, but once surgically solved, has unique implications on that child's quality of life. All the structures are right next to each other. Each one is handled by a different type of doctor. We can't function and handle this patient unless we work together. So when I started this journey 25 years ago as a medical student, my mentor took care of patients with problems like this. And he used to joke that if the phone rang and someone said, "Can I speak to the colorectal surgeon?" he would say, "Speaking." "Well, actually, I'd like now to speak to the urologist." And he would say, "You got him." "And the gynecologist?" "That's me." And I watched this as a student. And I realized over time, as medicine got more complicated, that in this case, let's say Rebecca, had problems in all of these areas. And I felt incapable of solving all of her problems without gathering a team that could take care of each of the individual problems. But I realized that it needed to be in a unified approach. So I had a dream. And that dream was to take the teams that needed to take care of children like this and unite them. The GI motility part, the medical part of colorectal work, the colorectal surgeons, the gynecologic surgeons, and the urologic surgeons, and work together to take care of a complex child. Take a quick look at this picture. A kindergartner was asked to draw a picture of what she thought her mother did for work. So what you see, and what I see, is a scantily clad woman grabbing a pole-like structure with men surrounding her, handing her $1 bills. You can imagine what the parent-teacher conference looked like. But actually, what this picture illustrates to me is you need context. So actually, this is the picture. She worked at Lowe's. It was a snowy day, and she had the last shovel to sell. What were you all thinking? But what this picture illustrates is you need context. And I actually felt that I was the only one who had the context of how to take care of these patients because of what I had seen done years before when one person tried to do all of the work and I felt was unsuccessful in doing that. Well, sounds like a great idea, but actually it was very difficult. So let's think about it from the doctor's perspective. Should we do this collaborative thing? Well, actually doctors, particularly surgeons, like to be in charge. And they don't like to share, and they don't like to be told that they can't go first in an operation. Some other team needs to go first because that's what's better for the patient. And we have to park our egos at the door as we share these patients. What about the hospital? Who's going to bill for the patient? How are we going to have a clinic that has all the doctors in the same place on the same day? That's not efficient. If the operation takes 10 hours and the gynecologist is needed for 2 of the hours, what happens with the other 8 hours of their day? They're not productive. Well, I can tell you they can't go and do something else because when we need them, they have to show up, patients under anesthesia. But most importantly, how about the child? Well, what is her perspective on this situation? How does she gather all these doctors together and make them work together? What if those experts are in different cities? She has to schedule appointments, that family has to schedule appointments at different times on different dates, perhaps fly. What do they do with the siblings? It's a disaster, really. And then medically, I can tell you there are circumstances where that child benefits from one operation where the tissues can actually be shared. So in Rebecca's case, her colon, a segment of it wasn't working, and at the same time her bladder wasn't working because it was too small. And guess what we could do by this collaborative process? We could take a section of that colon and remove it from the fecal stream and add it to the bladder to make it bigger, simultaneously in one operation. That's not typical. Normally the bladder work would be done and 6 months later someone would come along and do the colon work. How do you coordinate that in advance? But clearly that was the way to go. So in order to do this, you need a deep infrastructure. There's a lot of coordination. There are coordinators required, there are administrative assistants, there are schedulers, there's many different types of nurses, nurses on the floor, nurses in the operating room, nurses in the clinic, all with different areas of expertise. And you need an institution that says, all of this makes a lot of sense, it takes a lot of infrastructure to make it work, and if we do it right, we will get more patients that we can help. Well, Nationwide Children's Hospital was that place. And I had tried this at other places, but no one really successfully bought into this collaborative process. But it took some convincing because the old way of doing things, the siloed approach, was the way of medicine. But we truly showed that 1 + 1 could equal 3, and the sum was greater than the individual parts. And perhaps we could spread this to other areas of the hospital. I met last week with someone who's organizing a limb program, which needs orthopedic surgery and rehabilitation medicine and all of these individual specialties. What if they met together before the patient came and talked about that child? And then the child came and they all saw that patient on the same day. Imagine what we could do. But at the end of the day, it's really what's best for the patient, what's best for Rebecca, and clearly she would have benefited much more from the collaborative process today than when I first met her 25 years ago. And I'll just leave you with one story, and that is of Michael, who came to our clinic a couple months ago, and he was soiling. He was having an accident, was being teased at school so badly that his parents pulled him out of school. He came to our program, and I said to him, in 1 week, you will be clean and in normal underwear. And he looked at me like 8-year-olds tend to look at adults, like I had 3 heads, and couldn't possibly be serious. And a week later, he walked in with a smile and said, "Dr. Levitt, you make good promises." And because of the collaborative process, we are able to not only make those promises, but we are able to keep them. Thank you.